Today's case is one of those stories I really wish it was made up by a screenwriter binging on some horror movies and running low on coffee. But sadly, it's not. It's fucking real. You have probably seen the Netflix series The Glory, right? aka the beautiful, slow revenge that had everyone in the planet suddenly be invested in the proper way to destroy a bully. In the show, the main tormentor basically burns the victim with a hair curler, which is fucking insane. The kind of hair curler that you might be using for a very cute date. Well, imagine instead of curls, you get trauma and third-degree burns. Very cute, right? Naturally, all viewers around the world, they were like, well, this cannot be fucking real, right? And wait, does bullying in Korea actually go that far? I don't think so, no. Or did Netflix just crank up a little bit on the drama to levels of absurd? Well, surprise, the drama was actually a real story, very real, yes. And disturbingly enough, that iconic hair color scene, not a dramatic exaggeration at all. That nightmare was straight up ripped from the newspapers. Welcome back to another Beauty and Crime Sunday with me, in which I do my skincare while I talk about the chilling cases I found this week. This time we're going to Korea and we're going to a case that has been in people's minds for a while. Today we're not gonna be doing skincare because I have already done my skincare, so get your skincare and do it while I'm talking, okay? So today we're diving into the real life case that inspired one of the darkest scenes in The Glory, the infamous 2006 Cheongju Hair Curler Bullying incident at a school where apparently teachers were on vacation from their moral compasses. Let's unpack this very messy case of cruelty, cover-ups and curling irons, where they do anything but style your hair. An ordinary day on May 2006, the provincial police agency received a report from a 16-year-old girl as she pleaded with the police to actually save her. She did cry out in pain, and they did observe her condition that had all bruises and wounds that appeared to be very serious. And the nightmare for Chum started on May 2nd, 2006. After school, while Chung was ready to go home, and she was getting ready, but it was then that 3 other classmates suddenly stopped her and started asking questions. She was not very close to those girls, so she didn't really understand why they are asking her questions. And she was a very shy girl, so she preferred to remain silent instead of actually answering the questions, which this very likely annoyed the girls, and they started actually punching her. And while the unthinkable torture kept going for the next 20 days. According to Chan, they were constantly asking for money, and when she couldn't provide that money because she's in middle school, she would be severely beaten. They would use a baseball bat and also scratch the victim's chest with a safety pin, which is painful, which obviously left scratch marks all over her body. They also physically abused the girl with the fist and feet, leaving bruises all over her body. And the abuse, it went so far as extreme scorching the victim's arms and legs. And while the most important part of the story is the hair color that they would use on her also, which that hair color can take about 200 degrees, so the burns were third-degree burns, which they were so severe that it ended up being 6 weeks in fucking hospital for her. During an interview, she did talk with the news at that time from the district. The victim said that she had no time to actually heal her wounds because when they would start to heal maybe a little bit, they would do it again in the same exact spot, and they would make her body bleed every 3 days or every 2 days, so there was basically no time for the wounds to heal. The victim also said that the perpetrators would pick with their fingernails as a form of punishment. She did describe that the main offender would be the one that mostly did all the punch and all the burning, and then the other two girls would just grab her so she wouldn't move. When she would scream, the main offender allegedly would threaten to kill her if she made any more noise. And police, obviously, when they heard all this, they opened an investigation and initially questioned 3 girls that the victims said that those were the perpetrators. But all 3 of them denied involvement in this case. So the investigation ran into a couple difficulties when the victim's testimony kept changing, and she later identified other 3 girls that they were involved in the case, saying that the other 3 girls that she said before, those were not it. But that early misinformation had consequences in this case. The names of the students that were not really involved in the case, they had already spread like wildfire. And it had spread through local communities, and those innocent girls and their families received threatening calls and harassment. But police continued the investigation, and they actually found the 3 actual girls that were the perpetrators. The primary offender, identified as Kim, provided a detailed account to the investigation. And on June 2nd, the Cheongju district court formally charged her with the assault, citing the severity of this case. Authorities reported that Kim and the victim, they kind of showed like they were close in the school, which kind of surprised the school, the teachers and the classmates when the details of the abuse emerged, because they thought they were friends. The school initially reported that they had talked to both sides, finding conflicting accounts that turned the matter over to the police. But the victim's father filed a complaint against the school, questioning the adequacy of the school's internal handling of the situation, because the father was like, how is it possible that the school doesn't know this is happening? You can see the bruises on her. So subsequently, the school and several teachers received administrative penalties related to this crime and for the school violence that was happening. Regarding to legal consequences, Kim was the only student that was arrested, and she was later put in supervised monitoring, which consisted in oversight by parents or probation officers, the basic. So after all that horror, 20 days of non-stop torture, abuse, burns, beating, threats, and trauma for life, you would think that the perpetrators would maybe have a little dot in their criminal record, right? Well, no. Kim's supervised watch didn't leave a criminal record anywhere. The other 2 girls, also no record. They were simply placed under the care of their parents, which, if they already were bullies, they should have checked on the family also. Why are they like that? And they did this because, you know, it's their first offense and they're just kids, you know? Just a little first time torture. No big deal. Let's just put them on probation and call it a learning experience. In an interview with Cheongju Ilbo, the victim's father showed the heartbreaking truth. His daughter never told him the full extent of the abuse and what was happening at the school. Instead, she did stay quiet, carry the pain alone, and eventually asked to transfer schools. Not with tears, not with anger, just a quiet, desperate plea for help. And like many parents who don't really see red flags until it's, well, basically too late, he did say he regretted not actually paying more attention to the small request. That one sentence was her cry for help, and it was missed, and that killed the father very slowly. And while now if you're thinking, well, this is a very messed up case, you're not really wrong, but it's also not rare, which is, I think, the scariest part of this case. This is the tip of the iceberg. According to data from Korea Ministry of Education, cases of school violence have been steadily rising. In 2017, there were around 31,000 reported cases. By the next year, the the number had jumped to 44,000 up. Over 150,000 students were victims of school violence during a 5-year span of high school. And here is the really fun part. 68% of perpetrators walked away with a single mark on their school record. Only 2% of those perpetrators were transferred to a different school. And just 0.1%, yes, 0.1, were expelled. Basically, unless you live stream your bullying, I guess, and then show it to the school principal, your chances of facing real consequences are 0. But let's fast forward to July 2021 in Busan, where yet another horrifying similar case like this actually happened. A Mongolian middle school student was tied up, beaten, forced to drink alcohol, mocked for her ethnicity, and in one of the most disturbing details, forced to drink her own urine and eat cigarette butts. Because why not? And all of this happened over a 6-hour span. And yes, it was fucking filmed. The whole thing. And what kind of punishment this kids get? Social fucking service. That's it. Social service. Not jail, not expulsion. Just a few hours of volunteering. And then back to class like nothing had happened. This makes me furious. Because apparently in Korea, when it comes to school violence, Korea's disciplinary system just runs on vibes. With outcomes like this, it's no surprise that why the fuck would you say anything? Would you really report your abuser? If the worst they get, it's literally social service. Probably not. Victims are scared most of the time of retaliation, of being ignored and nothing changing. And honestly, they have every single reason to be. And just to make it even better, the little cherry on top, in South Korea, the hardest punishment a school can actually give for bullying is expulsion. That's it. No record, no community service bootcamp, nothing else. No actual legal consequences. Just a pack up your bag. You are switching schools. Meanwhile, the victims are left with the trauma, the scars and PTSD that now they will have to deal for their whole life, with also thinking that the reality is that the abuser probably is sitting somewhere at brunch, slipping an oat milk latte and planning their kids' piano lessons. It's no wonder so many victims stay silent about this, especially when the system says, sorry, we would love to help you with this, but we have a field trip to supervise. Remember how Kim acted like she was the best friend of the victim, while secretly burning her wrists and legs with the curling iron and then threatening to kill her if she made any noise? Yeah, that kind of manipulation doesn't really show up in a school report. Bullying like this usually often files completely under the radar because to adults, it does look like another random group of kids just hanging around. But behind closed doors, it's, well, completely different. Which technically brings us back to the Netflix series of The Glory. The show that had everyone gasping for air in fucking disbelief at the top bullying scenes. But as we now know, those scenes weren't really exaggerated at all. They were ripped from the real cases, like the one in Cheongju, and also another case in Japan, the Suki's case in Japan, where another student was also subject to bullying, which was also prolonged torture by her classmates. It's becoming a pattern. And now many viewers believe that The Glory wasn't just fiction. It was a mirror reflecting the pain, the silence, and brutally real trauma many victims carry with them long after the actual crime, because they will deal with it for their whole life. The victim in this case will carry the scars, both physically and mentally, for the rest of her life. The trauma doesn't really disappear. It shows up in nightmares, anxiety, and flashbacks. drugs. Meanwhile, the perpetrators, who should be around 35 right now, might be there living out normal fucking lives. Maybe they're moms, maybe they are wives, maybe they are even good friends that show up to all your events, birthday parties with store-bought cakes and a very big fake smile, all while pretending nothing ever happened. And while that's the real story behind the real-life glory bullying case, a drama about revenge, which I recommend you actually watch it, it's very good. But if you don't like watching like very shocking scenes, or you have been through stuff like this, don't do it. If it's gonna make you sad, don't do it. This drama shows the invisible weight victims carry when justice never really shows up for them. If you like today's video, or you are currently spiraling like the rest of us with rage, go ahead and hit that like, subscribe button for more raging cases like this one. Thanks for watching, stay safe, stay kind, and maybe check in on your quiet classmates a little more often. See you in the next one, and remember, do your skincare, and if you don't end up like a glazed donut at the end of it, you're not doing it right. Bye bye.